Rob Stewart, the man that brought us Shark Water and now the new piece, Revolution. Congrats on this. We know your titles of being a writer, producer, and director, but becoming an advocate or an activist and trying to create this new movement, this change for sustainability, how overwhelming was this over the last 4 years?
It's big. Revolution is the biggest concept I could think of. You know, it's the evolution of life on Earth. 3.5 billion years in the making. It takes you on life's journey through 5 mass extinctions, culminating in humans in the midst of a revolution to save ourselves. So it's a huge story, and we had to find a way of delivering it in a really positive fashion so people were more inspired about changing the world than, you know, pessimistic.
You brought a lot of us to a new place with Shark Water, just understanding what was such a misunderstood part of the world, never mind a species. Revolution is so much broader than that. How did you tackle this topic? Like, where do you begin?
We began with life, because it's life that gives us our food, our water, and our air. And if we don't have a love of that life, we're not going to fight for its protection. So I thought, first and foremost, people have to fall in love with our natural world. And I took them on this journey, showing them some of the coolest creatures and ecosystems and species that have made it through these extinctions, in hopes that people will look at some of their strategies and adopt them ourselves. Because we're in a pretty serious predicament environmentally right now.
And watching this piece, I mean, the cinematography, it's pretty spectacular with some of the shots you're getting. And the commentary, very important. I mean, we talk about being environmentally focused. The commentary, especially in Canada, and there's one line in the film that says, Canada being a climate criminal. Were you surprised the findings that you found and the response with the protesting going on to get the message across to create change?
I was. We spent 4 years in 15 countries filming revolution out there, looking for the biggest environmental problems and what was going wrong and what was going right, only to find that the biggest environmental catastrophe was here in our own backyard with the Alberta tar sands. And despite most countries taking giant steps to reduce their emissions, Canada's trying to inhibit any other country from creating a treaty to reduce their emissions so that they can continue to profit from the tar sands. So it became a really different kind of battle for us.
Okay, let's break down just what you said there, because that's a massive statement to a lot of people that are like, wait, tar sands, they're not as bad as India or China. That's where the big pollutants are. That's where, you know, the worst possible offenders can't possibly be in Canada. How do you back that up to all of this? You know, the critics are saying, oh no, we've got this covered, it creates jobs, it's a good thing. There's so much PR for both sides.
When we were at the UN Climate Conference, I was given the award on behalf of 400 of the biggest charities for being the country that had done the most to disrupt the climate negotiations. And internationally, we're known as the country that tries to stop any climate treaty from happening because Canada doesn't want to limit their emissions. The single biggest source of carbon dioxide on planet Earth is the Alberta tar sands. And we know that most of the carbon dioxide we put into the atmosphere gets absorbed by the oceans, making the oceans 30% more acidic than they were before the Industrial Revolution. And a few % change in acidity in your body will kill you. So we're inhibiting the formation of shells and skeletons and everything in the oceans. And we know that 4 out of the 5 mass extinctions in the past that have wiped most life off Earth have been caused by ocean acidification. So for us to continue to exploit the tar sands and continue to put massive amounts of carbon in the atmosphere when we know the consequences are so great, I think is irresponsible.
And you know, hearing that, this really comes down to a debate of profits versus social responsibility. So when you create a piece like this, one, it's effective to inform people, but to talk about it's one thing, but how do you create the action now?
I think education is paramount in this. You know, from every revolution in the past, people knew what was necessary. They knew cultures, races, genders should be equal. But right now, you know, what percentage of the planet knows about ocean acidification, knows about our consumptive patterns and our governments and our corporations running away and consuming our life support system? It's very small. You know, Martin Luther King brought 1 million people on the National Monument in Washington, D.C. to fight for equality. And the biggest protests for the environment we've had in D.C. have been 20, 30,000 people. So people just don't know what's going on. And once they know what's going on, our morals will engage and we'll be bound to make better decisions.
If you're just joining us, we're with Rob Stewart, who you might know from the Shark Water, the movie that put a ripple effect across the world, really, when it came to understanding about sharks. And now we're trying to understand how to make the world a sustainable place, which we are all falling down doing. Are you getting in front of the decision makers? Are they opening their doors to you and what you've learned? You've done so much work. Are you getting in there?
Our strategy is not to touch the decision makers. Our strategy is to open the hearts and minds of the public, and if we can get most Canadians to see this movie, then they'll engage in different governments, they'll vote for different governments, they'll engage in different corporations, and by doing that, we'll direct our economies and our direction towards sustainability.
Interesting. So you're actually, as Martin Luther King did in the reference you just said, trying to get that uprising by the people, as opposed to change at the top level, because it's a pretty heady battle in the government level.
Yeah, it's sort of clear that the governments and the corporations are making money off the way things go. It's enormously profitable to, rip oil out of the ground, to mine out the oceans, to cut down trees and sell that to people. So until the mass public stands up and says, no, we want a future. We don't want a world that's got full of extinctions and degraded ecosystems and pollution. We're not going to be able to get the kind of power and sway with the government that we need.
We only have a few seconds left, but when you talk about informing people and inspiring them to do something, if everybody acted like we did in the developed world in terms of way of life, what would that mean for the future in terms of the entire planet?
If everybody lived like we would need 6 planet Earths to sustain life. So we're in a really serious situation where by the middle of the century we face a world with no fish, no reefs, no rainforests, and 9 billion people that are struggling over the last remaining resources. So this is the most important issue humanity's ever faced. We've got to do something about it fast, and we need everybody involved.
Where can they see the film?
Revolution's in theaters across Canada April 12th, and therevolutionmovie.com is our website. Visit us, get involved.
And read the book.
Powerful film, powerful book.
Unbelievable. And how many terabytes of...
36,000 gigabytes, 36 terabytes of footage went into making Revolution.
Wow. Years in the making. Go see Revolution. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Rob. Always a good time having you on the show, man.
Much appreciated.